Hello and welcome to everybody. Very good to see you here in this EarMaster webinar. I can see that people are dropping in and the attendees are increasing in number. And while that's happening, well, let me just give you a very warm welcome here from Denmark, where we are this afternoon. So from here, it's good afternoon, and take it as a good morning or a good evening, wherever you are in the world. We're so happy to have you here. And we're very happy to have participants from many different countries, over 10 different countries around the globe. So that's really fantastic. But let me start with telling you what we've planned for you today. In this webinar, which has the title, Work Smart with EarMaster's Teaching Tools. Number one is EarMaster Cloud. What is EarMaster Cloud? Number two is looking at the teaching tools. Then we're going to be digging a bit deeper into them and getting practical and see how do we plan the course? How do we make lessons and assignments? And the course planning, different strategies for that. We're also going to be talking about that. And lastly, the Q&A session. In the slides, you see the different activities in the EarMaster app. If you're not familiar with the activities in EarMaster, you can download the app on your computer, phone, or tablet and check out some of the free exercises. To download it, you just go to our website. It's earmaster.com. In this webinar, we'll be looking at the tools that are only available to music educators, the teaching tools. But before we do that, let's see how EarMaster Cloud works on a general level. When a school, a choir, or a band, or another educational institution connects to EarMaster with an EarMaster Cloud account, all data of the users are stored in the cloud. And this means that a user can change device as he or she pleases and have the app installed on multiple devices. The cloud also connects students and educators. The teacher can manage classes, create assignments, assign them to her students, and see their results, while the students can see and work with the exercises assigned to them. And they can also work freely with the built-in courses in the app. Now, how's all of this managed? With the teaching tools. So let's move on and take a look at them. The teaching tools in EarMaster Cloud are only available to music educators, so students won't be able to see them. The first one is student results, which is used to monitor the students' progress and check their scores for assignments and tests. Then we have the assignment manager, which is where you choose assignments for your classes or individual students and make them pop up when they open the app. Next, the Workbook Editor, which is where you create the assignments or where you import EarMaster's ready-made exercises and make them your own, maybe by making small adjustments. And lastly, the music library has several hundreds of scores that you can draw from when creating exercises. It also has a complete overview of all the chords and scales that the app uses. And you can add your own music. You can add your own chords and scales and your own scores, or you can add scores that you find on the internet. So the goal is that after this webinar, you'll be able to create and manage assignments, monitor your students' results, and make a plan for a lesson, for a week, or for a whole semester. And let's just very briefly take a look at what such a plan might be and how that might look like. Here's an example from a school, and it shows us a plan for a whole semester with 16 weeks, and it's divided into modules, one for each week, and some of them contain a quiz or a test. Module 1 is clicked. It's open so we can see the content. This is meant for the first week. It has exercises in different activities. And in this example, the whole semester is actually put into one single file, which is made accessible to the students by the start of the semester. If you're not an experienced EarMaster Cloud user, you'll probably want to create separate files for each week, so you can adjust the exercises from week to week as you go along. Either way, the workflow is more or less the same. In EarMaster, the elements of a course are modules, and lessons, where each module contains one or more lessons. And the whole file is called a workbook. And a workbook can contain a whole semester as shown here, but it can also contain the assignments for a single week or even single exercises. It all depends on how much you decide to put into that same file or same workbook. So we've now come to the third part of the webinar, working with the teaching tools. So let's get practical and take a look at how a workbook is created. To do that, we go to the EarMaster app. And here I've opened the app, but I haven't logged in yet. I'll do that by clicking the little cloud icon here in the left corner. Type in my password. And my school is called EarMaster School of Music. And because I'm a teacher, I immediately get access to the teaching tools. I can switch to the normal view and go back to the teacher view. Now let's say I want to create assignments for one of my classes. And to do that, I open the Workbook Editor. And you'll probably remember that a workbook consists of lessons and modules. By clicking on a lesson, add a lesson, immediately also a module opens and a lesson within that module. Now the app guides me to choose an activity. And I want to make my students do some rhythmic sight reading. There, so I choose rhythmic sight reading. And here, the window in the lower part of the screen is the exercise setup, meaning that this is where I define the content of the exercise. So I want, let's say, the number of bars to be 2 bars. Instead of 4/4, let's choose 6/8. And let's choose some notes and patterns that are more typically to run into in such a meter. The dotted fourth. A couple of breaks. And let's take in the special patterns here. 3 8 notes in a row. And click on to options. I want ties as well to be part of it. For the tempo, let's make it a little slower. 180 BPM is a bit fast, I think, for even though it's on the 8th. So let's say 110. Okay, that's the exercise setup. It shows me the content of the exercise. And up here, I have the lesson properties, which is what shows me the flow of the lesson, the flow of the exercise. Description of the lesson, I can choose to add some information here. For example, I want to make the tempo adjustable. So I just write to my students, you can adjust the tempo as you please, as a brief information. And the title is generated automatically. So I've chosen 6/8, 2 bars, etc. If I don't like that, I can add my own title here. For the questions and the question flow, instead of 10 questions, let's say 8 questions. And let's add another 8 supplementary questions, which means that if the student is doing really well, he or she will pass on directly to the next exercise after the first 8. But if not, he or she will do 8 more to get some more practice. I want for the exercise settings here that tempo should be user may choose, but I want the note length to be evaluated too, which means that it's not just the rhythm, but it's also how you sustain the notes. All right, so I will give the workbook a title. I will call it Theory Workbook 1, and that's it. I will also save the file. On my desktop, I think. Just call it Theory Workbook 1, and save it. In fact, I think I'll give it a better title, which is more understandable for the students. So let's say music theory, fall 2022, module 1. There, this is what the students will see. So, and we saved it. And then we can go ahead and close the workbook editor. We now have that workbook as a file on our local computer. To test it, to try it out, to see what it works like, we can go to normal view and we can say file, open workbook, and find the workbook that we just created. It's this one. I open it, and you can see it pops up here in the middle under workbook. I have quite a lot of courses because I have many classes, but it pops up here, music theory fall, etc. I click it to test it. And here, my short little intro, you can adjust the tempo as you please. You can make a longer description if you want. And then we can begin. Now, over here in the exercise options, the student can adjust the things that we allow the students, or the things that we allowed the students to be able to adjust when we made the workbook. So, for example, the metronome clicks, I'd rather have all beats. The tempo can be adjusted as well, as we saw. And I think that's it. The note length is per default evaluated. There. Let's take another one. So here we see the evaluation of the note length is here. If it's green, it's pretty good. And this arrow shows me also, because it's green, it's pretty good, but though this is a bit too late. And here I hit the space button, but there was actually no note. And here I was right on the time, more or less, but I didn't keep the note as long as I should have. So these marks all help students to do self-assessment and to improve quicker. So we see that it works as planned. So let's move on and make another exercise in our workbook editor. I will just go back and go to the teacher view and go back to the workbook editor. Here, I want to continue working on the one I just worked with. So, and I want to show you that instead of building from scratch, you can just import the ones that are already made from EarMaster. So let's try and do that. I click Tools, Import Lessons from Workbook. I click the General Workshops to choose from that one. And let's do some chord identification. Let's see what we have here. Major, minor chords. I take this one, where they're played harmonically, which is simultaneously. Major, minor, and suspended fourth. So it's here, and all the settings are already there, and we can just move on. But in fact, I think I'll change just the chords a little bit. Instead of the suspended fourth, I want the diminished chord, the diminished triad, and the augmented triad. Maybe we should just change also the number of questions. Instead of 9 plus 20 adaptive questions, it's a little much maybe. So let's make it 10 plus 10. And so they get 10 extra questions here if they don't do well for the 10 first ones. The adaptive questions, if I take that one off, that means that they get more of the ones that they answer wrong. So to keep practice what they actually need the most. All right. We click File and then we save it. And we'll close it to move back to the normal view. And here I can just go there and it's already ready for me. So this is how I can test it. We can also hear the chords here before we start if we need to do that. But let's just jump right into it. Instead of the piano down here, I think I'll prefer the multiple choice. So for the lower instrument, I'll take the multiple choice. With that, you can answer with just one click. And let's go new question. Try augmented. Let's say major. Let's take augmented. And let's say major. Oh, major was wrong. And it tells me it was a diminished. I can play the question again and hear the diminished chord, and I can play my answer and hear the difference. It's very clear when played just one after each other. So this one also works the way we wanted it. So let's go back and make the last exercise for this webinar. We go to Teacher View, Workbook Editor. Open the same one. And for this one, click New Lesson. And I want to do a melodic sight singing exercise here. And as a source of musical material, I picked the score library, also called the music library. And then for my list of questions, I'll have to add something from the music library. And it comes up here. I can search, for example, for a title. I can search for Bach if I want something by Bach. But here I will look for a piece of music that I have uploaded myself. Oh, come all you faithful. It's good to start early with the Christmas songs. So, and we can hear the start of it, etc. Let's just click next. And here we control how much we want in one question. I don't want the whole song in one question, but I think until the first, like half cadence here would be suitable. And I want the evaluated voice to be the tenor, the green out here. So I click OK. And it's here, the first question. Now I can simply copy it while it's marked to make the next question. Now they're identical, but I open the next one and pick the next bars. So from bar number 10 and for the rest of the piece. I click OK, and it's ready, or more or less ready. So in the description of the lesson, I think I'll put sing the tenor voice. And I'll change the title to "Oh Come All You Faithful," so it's easy to see what's going on. There are two questions. It's fine. All this is fine. And I want to make sure down below here in the options that we can see the accompaniment voices on the staff as well. I use the tempo of the scores. Yeah, I think it's it. So I'll save this one and close the workbook editor. So now we have seen how to create a workbook with exercises, both built from scratch and imported from pre-made lessons. And we've also seen how we can use scores from the music library. And if you want to add extra music, I'll explain that briefly here by clicking on the music library. You want to add extra music to that. You simply click the import music XML and import your music as a music XML file. And a music XML file is a generic music file type, And all common notation programs are able to save the music that you're working on as a music XML file. So if you're working in Finale, Dorico, or Sibelius, MuseScore, you can just save your file as a music XML file and upload it into this music library and use it in your exercises. You can also add chords and scales, for example, chord progressions and chord inversions. Here we have the chords that are already there in the system and a few custom chords I've added myself, for example, a whole tone cluster, a semitone cluster, etc. And you can do the same for scales. So there's a lot of possibilities. But let's get back to the workbook we just made in here. Now, we want to make it an assignment for a class of students. So to do that, we go to the assignment manager. And I will add it to, I just need to remove another assignment first. I'll add it to the class called Music Theory Second Semester. There. And these files we see here are all the files I have available that I've already uploaded to EarMaster Cloud. But the file I was just working on is still on my computer. So I just upload it. I click here. It's there and it's already marked. And I click OK. So now I've uploaded it as an assignment for this class, and it's meant for as assignments for the next week. I have here 5 students in the class, and now they'll be able to see the next time they open the EarMaster app, it pops up on their screen. Let's try to see how that looks like from the student's perspective. So we go home, and I just need to log off because I'm a teacher. And I want to log on as a student. So there we go. Now I'm logged on as Maria. And here are Maria's courses. It's all the built-in courses of EarMaster and then the Music Theory Second Semester, where we just added the assignments. So I click on it, and there they all are. In fact, let's go ahead and make a few of them to be able to show her results, because when she's completed the exercises, then we can see her results. So let's try to do that. Here we begin. And Maria wants to have all the beats because this makes it a little bit easier. And the notes shown a little bit bigger. A few things were bad. Some of them were a bit off, and a lot of them were a bit too short. So she'll have to do better. Let's take the next one. That was better. Let's take one more. There, one wrong, the rest on the beat or a bit too early here. Okay. Let's go back. Take the other exercises we looked at. And here we have the piano showing us another way to answer these chord questions. I I got a wrong answer on the first one because I only had 10 seconds to do it. Let's try again. Here we go. And I want to show you another feature, which is the silent input. I'm going to tick that on and show what happens. Now, when I click the notes, I don't hear them. So it makes it a little bit more tricky to find out if you answer correct. Okay. We'll go back and take a look at the last one that we haven't tested yet, the sight singing. Sing the tenor voice we wrote, and we can move on. No. EarMaster just testing the configuration of the sound. And here, down here, we can follow what's going to happen. The key is going to be established. I get the first tone. There's a count-in bar. And then I need to sing the melody. And it's the tenor voice. No, 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 okay. I really need to check that out. I really need to find out why I was so much off here towards the bottom, because I can see that the pitch curve is telling that I'm too low. Again, I'm too low. I'm even too late in shifting the note, and I'm too low here. I'm probably on the D instead of the E here, and it seems to be going wrong already from here. So let's try to hear. No, 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 no. I took my breath. No, 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 no. More or less okay. No, 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 no. No, no. I went a fourth down here. No, 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 no. Fitting with ending on the dominant. So I could, I'll have to improve on that as well. Okay, but I won't do the whole thing. I'd rather show you something more, because we still have a tool to look at that we haven't looked at yet. Now, I'm still Maria. I'm still Maria, the student here. And if I go to my home screen, I have down here in the left preferences, but I also have my results and statistics. I click that, and I can see the past workbooks here that I've been working with. I can see my old results, and then I can see in the general workshops what I've been doing. The music theory that we've just been looking at here, there's the chords. We can see that I was doing fairly well with the minor and the diminished chord, but I got one wrong that was augmented. So if I've been doing lots of chords, it would be easy to see like a pattern, to see which chords were the ones that I was weakest at, that I needed to practice. And the other ones, because I didn't finish them, there's not much information in just in this result of Maria. But let's see how it looks like if you're the teacher and you can view the results of all the students. So I just briefly need to log off and log on again as myself. There. So I'm myself again, and I have access to the teacher view and the teaching tools. So I click the student results. I think I'll have a look at my oral training class 1. And the first window here simply shows me the general view of all their efforts, all the results, how much time they've spent. So if this is for the last, the current semester, you can see if they've been working a lot or if they've not been working at all. But I'd rather go in and see some specific exercises that I've told them to do. So I have told them to do some of the exercises in the general workshop. I was going to take interval identification, the minor and the major seconds. Here, all those intervals from minor second to major third, harmonically played, ascending and descending. And so I've marked this lesson, this single exercise, and it tells me over here that the lesson's been completed by all of them. It also tells me that 4 out of 5 had passed the lesson, and the passing threshold can be adjusted by you, so it doesn't have to be 90% or 70%. You can adjust it in the exercises, but per default, for most of the exercises, it's 70% as a passing threshold and 90% to get encouraged to move on to the next exercise. And Kevin had something with the minor second and the major second, so he needs to practice that. Of course, also the major third, one wrong in each of those. And if I click on the single exercise here, I get that information. If I click on the whole module, I get the more general information, which shows me that even though he was a bit wrong there, Kevin, that he's been doing fairly well, because his overall score here in the column showing the best attempts is actually 94%, which must be said to be satisfactory. The average score of all his attempts is lower, but me personally, as a teacher, I don't mind that. It just shows you that he's been practicing and that it has helped. Yeah. So in the student results, in this tool, you can follow the student's progress and you can see how well they're doing, and you can use the results to find out which elements they need to address. Maybe it's something you need to address in next class session, or you can give them new assignments. In fact, and here I just want to jump briefly back to the assignment manager. In fact, in my oral training class 1, Kevin Sampson, I could add an assignment just for him personally, just as I have done for John Taylor and Hallie Smith, because they needed something extra, either something more difficult or either something to practice a lot to help them improve. Yeah, so now we've been looking at, we've seen how all the teaching tools work, and we've seen how a course can be constructed in EarMaster, and I hope that until now that you find the information useful. Allow me just to change my program here and look at the planning of a course. And briefly put, there are 2 basic strategies. The one where you create one workbook for each week or for each month. This is what we just looked at before, that we created a workbook which was meant for a week, or maybe just for half a week, if you have classes 2 times in a week. And it could look like this, just exercises in 5 different activities. That's one workbook for each week. Or you could choose to make one master workbook for a whole semester, and you'd have all the weeks or all the modules down here, just as we looked at from the beginning of the webinar. And you could also do like a combination of both, because when if you build much of your course in advance, then it's easier to work just in one single file, and then you do create one workbook with all the weeks ahead that you want to plan ahead. And but instead of uploading it and assigning it as one workbook for the students so they can see the whole semester, you can simply import the lessons that you created. You can import each module into a new workbook, and assign that. So you keep a master workbook for yourself, but you assign bits of it week by week. That's also an option. And so if you're not already using EarMaster Cloud, but you want to get started with it, we'll be happy to help here, of course. And right at the moment, we are offering a free onboarding session of 45 minutes on Zoom to get you started the best way. If you want to try it out first, you can also get a free trial of 3 weeks. And for this, you get a demo account with all the functions of a normal cloud account, but only for one user. And if you're interested in that, you can just send me an email right away and I'll set it up for you. And now we've come to the last part of the webinar, which is the Q&A session. So now feel free to write any questions in the Q&A chat session. Oh, there's a question here. How many workbooks can you load at the same time? Yeah, well, in fact, you can load one workbook at the same time, which is why if you have like a workbook covering 1 week, you load that, the students do the exercises, and they're all saved, of course, in the student results, even when you remove the workbook, and then you upload another workbook. So you go ahead changing from week to week, if you don't choose the one with creating a workbook for the whole semester. There is also the option, of course, that if you want to be able to have the students see several workbooks at the same time, you can create classes. If you have one class, you can create 3 classes or 2 classes in EarMaster for that single class. And just you put the same students in all the 3 classes. So when the students open their app, they can see 3 different workbooks at the time, and they can work on those 3 different ones at a time. Where to get all the information, and I think I will briefly show you that. And here, so I'm on our homepage, and in the support section, if you just click support, you end up here, and there's something called EarMaster Cloud support. There's a section for admins, there's a section for teachers, and one for students. And in the one for teachers, you have, for example, create assignments, how you create the assignments. You open the Workbook Editor and the structure in the workbook of modules and lessons, etc. And how you deploy the assignments, different teaching strategies. Actually, as we've talked about today, 1 workbook per week, 1 master workbook, or by giving them more workbooks for the same class, you can have 1 workbook per discipline if you create several classes in EarMaster for a single class of students. And yeah, it's also the music XML import described here. And if you go back, I'd like just also to point out that for admins, and most admins are also music teachers. So if a university uses EarMaster Cloud, well, the teachers will often be the admin that set it up with users. And there's a nice video here that shows how to do that. And it is it's quite easy. So it can be done in a short amount of time. Can I make exercises for music PDF, or do I need to convert to XML first? Yes, well, you do need to convert to XML. It needs to be an XML format for EarMaster to be able to read it. The problem with PDFs is that they are difficult for software to interpret, but the music XML files are coded in a different way, so it makes it more usable for many different types of music software. And there's a question more. Also, to clarify, I can add modules to the same workbook at different times. Yes, definitely. Yes, you can. So this was also what I what I did when I went into the Workbook Editor, and I simply opened a workbook that I've been working on recently, and I can click one new module and add lessons to that, create lessons and rename them. So to construct, a whole semester or plan here. Yeah, I hope that was an answer to that. Otherwise, just write again. Thank you for being part of this webinar, and it was so nice to have you here. And thank you for your interest in EarMaster. I'll be happy to connect with you either by mail, by phone, or by Zoom, or in any other way. So if you have further questions, you have my email address from the confirmation emails regarding this webinar. Just type a reply. And remember also, if you're interested in getting a free trial, or what we also call a demo account of EarMaster Cloud, then just send me an email right away, and I will set it up for you pretty quickly. So thank you for joining us today, and have a nice day, morning or evening, wherever you are. Bye.